Now, this next item might make you laugh, it might make you cry, it might make you happy or sad. South Africa is becoming a more unhappy nation, at least that's according to a new study. The World Happiness Report ranks us outside the top 100 for happiness. It says the economy is partly to blame, but there's another factor which might raise a few eyebrows. The latest now from our reporter Michael Marillier, who joins me in studio. Good evening, Michael. So, Happiness Index, how exactly does this work?
Yeah, absolutely, Sally. So the World Happiness Report is basically exploring life satisfaction. That's the best way to put it. I think that's the most simple way to put it. Life satisfaction across more than 150 countries around the world. And it asks a simple question, Sally. How happy are you on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being utterly miserable and 10 being totally ecstatic? And then once it's got that score from people around the world, it then goes and explores why they are the way they are. Why are they happy, or why are they sad? And what do countries have in common when it comes to the things that make them happy and the things that make them sad? So let's focus on those results. Sally, you can decide whether the results make you happy or sad. Top of the world, the happiest place on earth, according to this study, is Finland. It got a score of 7.8 out of 10, Sally. The United States, 18th in the world with a score of about 6.9. Libya was top of the rankings in terms of Africa. It finished 80th in the world. South Africa, outside of the 100 club, as you said, it finished 109th with a score of just 4.8. And bottom of the pile was Afghanistan, Sally, with a score of just under 2.6. Perhaps not surprising, as that country has been plagued by conflict over the last 10 years or so. But certainly South Africa not doing particularly well with a score of less than 5, Sally.
However, isn't it about the individual's perception of how happy they are? And I suppose, yes, it is up to the individual to say how happy they are. But we are always told in South Africa that we're too negative about our country.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of factors at play, and it is a lot about perception. And you get that sense when you look at Finland as the world's top country, because there are subjective factors at play here. It's not just the wealthy countries or the healthy countries that are doing really well in these rankings. Let's focus on that, and I'll explain why, Sally. So Finland actually is number 21 in the world in terms of GDP per capita. So it's not the richest nation on earth. And yet, according to this study, Sally, it is the happiest nation on earth. It also finishes 27th in terms of life expectancy. So again, it's not like Finland is doing incredibly well in terms of its healthcare system. Although it is a good healthcare system, it's not necessarily the best in the world. But this is where Finland does really well, Sally. In terms of the perceptions of freedom, it's number 5 in terms of this particular study. So people feel that they can just about do anything with their life if they put their minds to it. And number 2 in terms of social support. By social support, Sally, we mean Finnish people feel close to one another. They trust one another. There's a large amount of interpersonal trust. They all feel that they are working towards a common goal. And this is important as well. Finland finished number 4 in the world in terms of the perception that there was not much corruption in the country. So there's a large amount of trust amongst the people and also towards the leaders themselves. And that, it seems, is the key to happiness, according to the study.
So it ain't money, honey, but it is a sense of freedom, a sense of connection in your society, and a sense that you're living in a society that is functioning and not corrupt. So bearing all that in mind, give us the perspective on our country and how our ranking might have changed.
Yeah, absolutely. It has changed considerably over the last few years. Let's focus on that very quickly, Sally. So I'm going to take you back to 2012 in terms of the World Happiness Report. Back then, we were, in fact, inside the top 100. We were ranked 96th in the world, Sally. And fast forward to 2020, and we've dropped, as I mentioned, to 109 in the world. So a steady decline over the last 8 years or so. And I just want to bring up our last graphic, Sally, which will actually show you several other countries which have regressed over the last few years. And you could make the argument that trust is a crucial problem in all of these countries. So Venezuela made the worst performance in terms of the last 12 years. Sally's gone back almost 2 points. Of course, Venezuela has been troubled by political division. In fact, 2 separate people are claiming to be in charge of Venezuela as we speak. Zimbabwe, we know, has had problems for the last 20 years. And the United States is interesting, Sally, because you could say that the US has been really very much divided between pro-Trump and anti-Trump over the last few years. So if you wanted to argue that trust was a problem and is a problem when it comes to happiness, certainly those countries would provide evidence.
I'm wondering, regarding sort of money not buying you happiness, that money's less of an issue when you've got enough of it.
Indeed.
But when you don't have enough of it, and if your economy is in a really difficult stage, then it occupies everything.
That's right. So the report is not saying that the economy doesn't play a very important role, but certainly what they've said is that the trust factor, the social support, and concerns around corruption really can play a big role, particularly when you're talking about adding that little bit extra onto the happiness score. So it's almost like a hierarchy of needs, if you want to put it that way. And Finland really builds on a strong economy, a lot of good infrastructure, and then that social support, which seems to play a big role.
Now, I know you were telling me earlier this survey was done before COVID-19 hit. And seeing as the Finns prize their freedom so much, I wonder if it's going to be quite different next time around.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Having said that, Sally, the experts actually say that because they seem to work together as a country and they seem to have this common identity, it may have actually helped them prevent the spread of the virus, in that they all respect authority, they trust their leaders, so when their leaders say, hey, you have to stay at home, that's exactly what they do. So perhaps a lesson for South Africa in terms of COVID-19.